The wooden cow. Not all treasures sparkle. Not every joke is harmless. Sometimes luck waits for you where you least expect it, wearing a wooden tail. Once upon a time, long before people frowned at the sunrise or hurried through their days, the world was full of laughter and clever folks who could spin a joke as quick as churning butter. If you didn't know how to tell a good tale or tease your neighbors, you'd sooner stay at home, because everyone loved a prank and a hearty laugh. But in that old world, there lived the king's daughter, the most beautiful and stubbornly solemn girl the land had ever seen. Her frown was famous. Not a single suitor could make her smile, no matter how many lined up at her door. Her parents were completely baffled. In the end, they had trumpeters announce across the entire kingdom,
"Whoever manages to make the princess laugh will be weighed in gold, and not just a handful, but from head to toe."
Jokesters and jesters, tricksters and clowns came from every direction, but one by one, each left with a long nose and nothing to show for their efforts. Still, there's always a master left for every challenge. One gloomy day, the king sat sighing beside his daughter when the doors creaked open and in poked a wild head of hair.
Begging pardon, are your majesty at home?
And who are you? What do you want, rascal?
The king barked, his eyebrows drawn tight with impatience.
Begging pardon. I've come to have the truth certified.
The truth? Haven't you a mayor and a council in your own village?
But before the king could wave him away, the princess, for the first time in 3 days, opened her mouth.
Father, you're king. Don't turn anyone away. Let's hear what trouble he brings.
The king grunted, but gave a grudging nod. Kubo straightened up, sunshine in his grin.
Exactly why I came, miss. Listen up.
With that, Kubo, the village cowherd, flung off his shaggy sheepskin cap and planted himself squarely before the king and princess, clad in a muddy belt, homespun shirt, and coarse trousers, with nothing but old boots on his feet, surrounded by all that royal gold. He began his story the only way he knew how, loud and proud, just as he would down at the crossroads after a rainy market day. They announced in the village that everyone, cow or no cow, must pay the cowherd his due.
They can take their fairness. I have not a single beast. No way am I paying good money for nothing.
Mr. Slice shoved his hands in his pockets and trudged off, muttering the whole way,
Fair's fair, they say. Fair for fools, maybe. Psst, bah. We'll see about that.
He kicked at a stone and grumbled some more on his way home, his complaints echoing behind him like the braying of an old goat.
What nonsense.
Mr. Slice was not about to pay for something he didn't have. Rules, or no rules. With a grunt and a scowl, he got to work. So crafty, Mr. Slice carved a cow from wood and sent her to pasture with all the rest, warning the cowherd sternly to treat her as well as any other and bring her home each evening, safe and sound. He gave the wooden cow a final poke in the belly and grinned, half proud of his handiwork. Kubo stared at the cow, rolled his eyes, and slung her over his shoulder with a sigh. If there was one thing worse than rules, it was hauling someone else's nonsense all summer long. Kubo grumbled,
What a job. It'll be a fine mess, but as they say, when you take the coin, you take the chore.
Every day he lugged the wooden cow on his back, following the herd, and every night returned her faithfully to Mr. Slice's house. But when autumn bit with cold and icy winds, firewood was scarce. So, with no real cow to care for and a freezing nose, Kubo rolled his eyes, chopped up the wooden cow for firewood, built a roaring blaze, and warmed himself through with a secret smile. As the fire crackled, Kubo stretched his toes toward the flames and let out a long, contented sigh. Not a worry in the world, until the sun set and footsteps thundered up the path.
Good evening! Where's my cow gone now, Kubo?
Old Mr. Slice demanded, voice shaking with outrage.
Oh, you know, turned her into firewood out in the field.
Kubo replied, not a hint of regret in his voice.
You rascal! You'll pay for that, Kubo. Mark my words.
Kubo only shrugged, but Mr. Slice huffed straight to the mayor.
Sir Mayor, I had my cow just as ordered, paid up like everyone. Kubo here pastured her all summer, but today, what does he do? He chops her up in the field and doesn't bring back a single horn or tail. What do you say to that?
Well, neighbor, I'll say as the good Lord says, a cow for a cow.
The mayor sent the bailiff to fetch Kubo and his cow before the court.
She's not fit for court, sir. Tell them to wait while I brush and straighten her up.
Kubo responded, trying to sound as innocent as possible. Knowing the mayor would want to see proof the cow had ever existed, Kubo made sure everything looked just as it should. A hide freshly dragged out, legs of wood for show, and scraps of meat hung proudly from the barn beams. From a distance, anyone might have guessed Mr. Slice's precious cow was still standing there, stiff as ever. But then the mayor forbade anyone in the village from buying even a scrap of Kubo's meat. Anyone caught would lose their money and be thrown in the stocks. Poor Kubo didn't earn a penny, for most people were too afraid to cross the mayor. Still, not everyone was put off so easily. The one-eyed priest's dog, Patch, and his pack sat under the beams, licking their lips while the smell of roast drifted down. Kubo spotted them and cracked a grin.
What? You want some? No coins? What do you say? Spent it all on bones? Fine, you can have it on credit. Just pay me when I ask.
Kubo flung them a juicy bone, and they tore into it, teeth gnashing. The rest, he decided, would become a feast.
I'll cook what's left. Invite all the neighbors. They'll owe me favors when their bellies are full. One day, maybe they'll feed me back.
So he roasted and simmered, hosting a grand party. His neighbors ate and drank, thanked him warmly, and then didn't give him a second glance for the rest of winter. At home, his wife's patience grew thinner with every empty pot. Day after day, she watched the children grow hungrier, huddled on the stove, and sent Kubo increasingly sharper looks. The lingering smell of roasted cow did nothing to fill their bellies. Kubo nearly went grey with worry. But then, just as he thought all hope was lost, he remembered. The priest still owed him for a bone. Quick as a flash, he dashed out, searching every nook and cranny for Patch, but that one-eyed rascal knew how to hide well.
If you won't face me, I'll haul you before the magistrate,
he muttered, shaking his fist toward the empty yard. He stuck his head into the parlor. There was Patch, sprawled comfortably under the table, one big eye glinting with mischief.
There you are, you blind old mutt! Pay your debt!
Just then, the one-eyed priest, who could barely see a thing, spun around.
So now I'm a blind dog, am I? How dare you? What do I owe you, beggar?
Kubo bolted, Patch and the priest's staff hot on his heels. But instead of getting paid, he got chased out of town and nearly trampled by the priest's parishioners. The priest dragged Kubo to the mayor and had him condemned to 100 blows of the rod. Kubo learned of his fate only when 6 men and the bailiff came to haul him off. He slipped out the back and ran through villages and towns. He wandered until, one day, he found himself in a city quite unlike any he'd ever seen. Whitewashed buildings towered high into the sky, green as spring onions. Kubo gawked up at them, scratching his head in wonder.
Well, would you look at that? They must line their houses with something mighty strange, or their builders all eat spinach by the bushel. Just look at those windows, all the way up there, like doors back home. I bet even a chicken here would sprain her wings if she tried to get up to those hinges.
Lost in wonder, Kubo didn't notice a group of townsfolk strolling by, snickering at the mud on his boots and the way he gawked at the palace. One of them nudged a friend and said,
Don't you know? That's the king's palace, and anyone who can make the princess laugh will be weighed in gold.
Kubo's ears pricked up. This was the best news he'd heard in months. If bright ideas could buy supper, he was already rich. He wandered deeper into the gardens, still muttering to himself.
Is that so? Now that would solve my troubles.
He admired the neat flower beds and the perfect polished paths, until, without warning, 3 angry gardeners popped up from behind the roses.
Hey, you scoundrel trampling the flower beds! Out, out, before we put the rake to your backside.
Before Kubo could stammer an answer, the gardeners charged. He dodged left, spun right, and ducked under a drooping lilac, his laughter chasing them faster than their shovels. When they'd almost snared him, he spun one final twirl and darted sideways, slipping out a hidden gate before they could catch their breath. Out of breath, but still grinning, Kubo now found himself in a beautiful inner courtyard, surely part of the king's palace itself. He peered around, hunting for the royal dung heap, when suddenly he was surrounded by a ring of uniformed men, voices rising.
A spy! Seize the spy! To the gallows!
Kubo threw up his hands, trying not to look too clever.
Hold on. I'm only looking for the compost heap. And perhaps I could make the princess laugh, if you don't mind.
At that, the crowd's fury cooled a notch. One splendidly dressed courtier stepped forward with a knowing smile.
No harm, friend. I'll guide you to the king. Just promise me a quarter of whatever reward you earn, if you make the royal daughter laugh.
Okay, why not? Wait here and I'll see to it.
Kubo winked. Sure enough, escorted past 3 tough guards, each demanding a quarter share, Kubo found himself before the king and his silent daughter. He told his tale of wooden cows, trickster priests, and doggy debts. And at last, the princess smiled, then giggled, then burst out laughing, until she had to clutch her side. Seeing this miracle, the king leapt to his feet, eyes shining.
Well now, my clever boy, you've done what none could. What reward does your heart desire?
Kubo wiped his brow with a wink and a crooked grin.
Oh, Majesty, I came just to clear my name. Let the mayor's sentence stand for what it is. 100 solid stripes, signed and sealed. I ask for nothing else.
The king laughed, shaking his head.
Kubo, enough with your jokes. I'm truly offering you a reward. I'll weigh you in gold as I promised.
But Kubo grinned, shrugging toward the door.
Truly, Majesty, all I want is a bit of justice. Those 4 clever fellows outside and every one of the gate guards asked for a quarter of whatever I'd win. Let my 100 stripes be given to them. That'll even the score.
The princess, still wiping tears from her eyes, couldn't resist cheering him on.
Yes, father. Let them have their quarter. It's only fair.
So the king signed and sealed the verdict. The 4 greedy fellows, who'd tried to charge Kubo for passing, each got their quarter share, in stripes rather than treasure. Kubo just snickered, but neither the king nor his daughter wanted to part with Kubo now. The king showed him the royal barns, the 100 head of cattle, and the prize manure pile.
You shall be the royal cowherd from this day forth. Bring your family, and choose your favorite of the herd. She'll come with a bell.
After that, there was always enough milk and more than enough to smile about, at least for Kubo. The king never stopped wondering how laughter, luck, and a bit of mischief turned a simple wooden cow and one clever joke into the greatest treasure his kingdom ever found. As for Kubo, well, whenever life got difficult, he just whistled down to the barn, patted his favorite cow, and waited for the next adventure to begin.